So we're just going to kick straight off. I'll do the intro for anybody that hasn't been on one of these before. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. A very warm welcome to this Explain Pain in the Clinic webinar. My name's Joanna and I'm Director of NOI Group Europe, and I'm joined this morning by my very good friend and NOI teacher, Tim Beams. Morning, Tim.
Hello.
Hello. Tim has been a NOI teacher for nearly 20 years and has taught Explain Pain to thousands of clinicians all over the world. He's an active clinician himself, specialising in persistent and complex pain, and he is also co-founder of an organisation called Le Pub Scientifique, which is an online education platform for clinicians to learn about treating pain directly from leading clinical experts and scientists doing the research. So, Tim, if you don't mind just dropping the link to that in the chat, people often like to go and check it out. These sessions are all about giving you a taste of Explain Pain and how to practically use it in the clinic. Now, some of you will have done a course, an Explain Pain course already. And for those of you that have, these sessions will reinforce what you've already learned. But if you're new to Explain Pain, this will give you a really good taste of the kinds of things that we cover on the core course. So just a couple of things to mention before we start. Tim is going to be talking for about 20 minutes. If you have any questions, please do put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we will answer as many of them as we can live. And if you want to watch the recording of this session, you can access it on our YouTube channel, which is called the Clinical Discussion Group. I'm just going to drop the link to that in here. You'll find also in there loads of back episodes of these webinars. So there's tons and tons and tons of material in there. Okay, let's get stuck into the subject for today, Tim. We are talking about the brain's role in pain and moving beyond it's all in your head. So where would you like to kick off with this? Or do you want to tell us what you're going to talk about very briefly, and then we'll go in.
We've forgotten how we do this.
Yeah, we're sorry, a bit rusty. Tell us what you're going to talk about.
Okay, well, yeah, hi everybody, and if you're live or recording, good to have you here, so thank you for joining. Well, a few things. The first thing is to say, is it something that we still hear? Are you saying it's all in my head? Unfortunately, it is. So I'm going to give you two examples of that I've had already this week. Why we should be listening to that, I think, is another thing to say. You know, not dismiss it. You know, why would that be, and how might we go about that? And then from an educational point of view, we might actually want to say something about the brain and the brain's involvement in a pain experience. So how might we go about that as well? So depending on time, we have a few different ways that we do that, that I can offer, and I mean other people will have some great ideas as well. So very welcome to drop them in the chat as we go through.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. That sounds really good. I'm excited for this one, actually. I love talking about this. Assuming that we do still have patients that come to us with that misconception, potentially from other clinicians or just the world at large, where do you go with that as a clinician when somebody turns up and says, are you telling me it's all in my head?
Well, there's where do you go with it, you know, on the spot practically, and there's where do you go with it, like your inner feeling, the felt sense when you hear it. So perhaps I start there, because I've had this happen twice to me this week.
Okay.
Where I just get an inner sense of dread and just disappointment as well.
Which is normal, isn't it? That's completely normal to experience that as a clinician.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, people can tell me whether they get this as well. I'm just utterly disappointed. And now there, I have to say, you haven't been a part of the discussion that person has had with their clinician, so you don't really know what's been said. But what's been taken away from a conversation is that that person has been told it's in their head, and words to that effect. And often hearing that, when you check in and say, what does that mean? They've dismissed me. They've dismissed me. They think I'm making it up. It's not real. Those sorts of comments. So it is really worth, and this is where I would start. It's just worth checking in with that. How did it make you feel? I mean, that literally is what I would say. How did it make you feel? And I can't untether myself from the situation, because then I have to say, how do I feel having heard that as well? And I feel really disappointed, and I'm quite sad.
Mm.
But we must realize that some people might be doing this with best intentions as well. So they might be trying to communicate. Do you know what? The reason you're in pain is actually is quite a complex phenomena, and I'd love to tell you something about the brain. So let's give people an equal chance, and perhaps that's what they're trying to do. But given what I've heard this week, so this is just live feedback, is if someone feels dismissed, well, what can we do about that?
Yeah,
So yeah, if someone it feels like that, we need to make them feel validated and
yeah,
supported, and there are really simple things that we can do straight away. So the one thing that I've said is, I mean, it's listening to them,
mm,
validating what you've heard and what they've said and how that might have made them feel, and perhaps even using your experiences of sharing how it made you feel as well. These are just levels of validation within that. And we've had these discussions actually with pain advocates, haven't we, Joe?
yeah,
Where they've said, and I know Gilletta Belton, for instance, has written about this, where she said, I just wanted to hear someone say, I believe you. I
yeah.
believe you. Your pain is real.
W- w-
Although I can't see it and I can't feel it, but I believe you.
Yeah. Would you
And
share with them that it's fairly common that people have this idea with the patient? Would you say that that I hear this routinely, it's a common thing, and we
well,
can do something about that?
well, when we decided on this topic, I was like, do you know what? I don't think I'm seeing as many people like that anymore. And then, what day is it today? It's a Wednesday. So
Mm,
Monday and a Tuesday, I've had that
two
twice
this week.
already.
Yeah. So yeah.
So yes, it is happening. And actually, interestingly enough, I had another patient get in touch with me, and he said, I really loved listening to you and reading what you're thinking and what you're talking about, because you embrace a whole body, a whole person perspective. And I think my bias is that there's lots of people out there saying, you know what, we should be more whole person perspective. But not everybody is there,
Yeah.
and certainly not every clinician is there either.
Yeah.
Everybody on this call is, though, aren't
Of course.
they? So I've, I guess, is it simple? I mean, validation and levels of validation, we can learn them and we can train and we can get better at it. But I think there's one important feature of that is being authentic.
Yeah.
And if you
We've done
can't,
sessions on validation, so
yeah,
you will
yeah,
find
yeah.
them in the library if you want to go really deep dive on validation.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, just have a think. How would you feel?
Mm,
It's not difficult, is it? To do that. I always think of one example fairly recently, going to a dentist and telling them that I was struggling with pain and not feeling very heard and believed. And then I found myself having to, like, like support myself and
Mm.
give them all this information and and yeah, checking back and noticing what that was like. It wasn't a very pleasant experience, not being heard and believed.
Mm.
So that's, I think, a start. And then let's say that there would be practical things, because the brain, I mean, first of all, it's not separate from the rest of us, is it? We
It
are
is the
one.
body.
It is the body. And the interesting thing about us is that we aren't separate from the world that we inhabit as well. But we can use some of that actually to our advantage, because we could ask someone to reflect on their experience of pain and notice times when things have been perhaps better or worse, and ask them to tell us, write down what it was about that
Mm.
situation that made their pain better and worse. So get them to reflect, to be in themselves, and hopefully open to the different influencing factors, the features of that situation. Maybe it was the environment that they were in at that time. Sometimes you hear wildly different influences of going on holiday. I've got a patient actually who's in the Canary Islands at the moment, and her pain is significantly improved. In fact, she said she's had 2 weeks where things have felt really calm and settled.
Mm.
So being in a different environment has had for her a very significant effect. Um, I've literally just got off a call with someone, which is why I didn't have long to prepare with you, Joe. But going to medico-legal appointments, and just even the preparation for that, he was
Mm.
telling me, was enough to make things worse. So people have a handle on it, don't they? They
So you're
have,
trying to illustrate it. You're trying
yeah.
to get them to think about a scenario when their pain was better or when their pain was worse, to illustrate the impact that external factors have on that experience for them.
Just, I think, factors, because we don't know what they will be,
Sure.
and they could be external in that they are the environment that we're in. They could be internal. It could be the expectations of the appointment, or
Yeah.
the state that my body's in when I'm at that appointment, or whatever that.
Yeah.
So the ability to be able to notice, I mean, sort of what turns the volume up or what turns the volume down.
Yeah. Volume up, volume down. I like that. I always have. Yeah. Lovely.
Your
Thank
dials.
you. I love a dial.
Your dials, exactly. And from an explain pain point of view, we are being very true to the pain conceptual change model here. It's a behavioral change model, and a big part of that, to begin with, is the ability to get someone to notice
Got you.
and reflect. And then what do you do from that point? Where do you go from there? I mean, there's the noticing, the jotting down, the talking about it, but then there's the doing and the experiencing. And
Yeah.
uh, and we can get people to do and to experience in the moment with us. So it's really helpful to have a few different ways of doing this. Joe, I've done this with you before, but perhaps you could just put your pen down for a second.
I will.
And and I want you to bring to mind someone who you're close to, who you love and cherish, and picture a moment where you felt close to them, or you were having a laugh with them, or something. Yeah, well, you're doing it now, aren't you? And what I'm interested in, were you able to do that? Have you got someone in mind?
Easily, yes. Yeah.
Easily, okay. And bringing them to mind, what do you feel in you? Do you feel something in your body as you're doing that?
100%. I feel instantly happier. I feel lighter. I feel warm. I feel a warmth in my chest. I feel like I could do something and I want to do something and speak. And yeah, yeah, you feel it.
And then I'm noticing, so I mean, this is lovely that we have this rapport anyway, but then I'm noticing things in you as you were doing that. So you did smile, quite quickly, didn't you? And that, so then we can respond to that. So there's this beautiful two-way process where we can bring about an experience, and we can be curious about that experience. And there's a skill in you. You've demonstrated you have skill in being able to be aware internally of how you
Mm.
felt, and also of the visualization process. And then there's a skill in me in order for me to sort of lead you through that,
Yeah.
and also of my skill in being able to notice you going through that process, and to point
Mm.
out some of that. We could do the reverse, couldn't we?
Yeah.
We could start with something like that. I mean, another one that I commonly use that we nicked from someone ages ago was grab a lemon and bite into the lemon. There we go. So immediately I get this bitter sensation of feeling in my in
Yeah.
my jaw as well. I saw it in yours.
Yeah.
You did that, yeah. So we can bring experiences to mind. Why go to the pain one to start with? Why not, go to something and get a sense of whether it's a process that they can engage in.
Yeah.
Not everybody can. And perhaps you would want to, well, why not choose an example of when they might hurt themselves and what that feels like. So
Yeah.
should we try this?
Yeah.
I've got one in my mind. I'm thinking about stubbing my little toe on the sofa during the summer, and I wonder whether we've all stubbed our toes, haven't we? And whether I don't know which toe. Which have you got a favourite toe to stub?
But the little toe is probably the least favorite, to be honest. It
Why
seems to
is it
wreck
that the
a bit
smallest?
more.
Why is it that your smallest toe gets the most insult? And bring to mind a time when you've stubbed your little toe, or maybe you can bring to mind just the process of doing it, and 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 can you notice in yourself what you feel like as you bring that to mind as well?
Yeah, everything sort of you clench, you go tight, you feel a bit stressed, and actually you can feel it in your chest. Your chest actually goes tight because you feel unsafe, vulnerable, because I always think the little toe is more likely to detach,
Yeah, yeah.
feels
And
more vulnerable.
And having done that, do you feel like there's what sort of actions would you take? What would you do in that situation as well? Is it
What
does
if
it?
it actually happened?
Yeah.
Well,
Do you feel
I'd
like
be
you have
making a lot of noise, swearing, jumping about, yeah, holding my toe, my foot to make sure it was all still together if it wasn't too painful, But you could be crying, couldn't you? You could have really, really a physical response to that happening if you hit it really hard.
absolutely, yeah, and I'm bringing that to mind because it happened to me in the summer, didn't it, Joe? When I
It
whacked my
did.
toe, and I was sure when I was going to look down that the toe was going to be at a right angle, and that was really interesting because it felt like it was at a right angle, and perhaps it got there, but when I
Yeah,
looked down, it was no longer there. I mean, it was horribly bruised afterwards, but an example, like it's an everyday example that we can bring to
mm,
mind, and it's helpful to have a few of these in our repertoire, if you want, where you can bring something to mind, and you can ask someone not just what it feels like, but what the sorts of things that they do in those situations are as well, because
yeah,
many of those are behavioral responses based on a need to check in, protect, get help. I love your idea of holding it in place just in case. Just in case what?
it came off.
Yeah. So, and to me, they're not just they're embodied practices. There are ways of us to be able to do something, to feel it, to sort of gain more concrete knowledge in what you're trying to discuss.
Mm,
But it's also a beautiful way of building a rapport. It's
yeah,
it's a way of gaining some validation. You have the ability to be able to, through your communication and your curiosity, of being able to be, on board with that person. So you're going through the situation, the example together, then, aren't you? So I really like having opportunities like that to check in. And then I think, like, a part of a validation of the behaviors involved in, for instance, hurting yourself, is that then we might be able to extrapolate out, given the pain that you're experiencing now, what are the sorts of things that you notice that you do now, or you notice that you feel now? Or when are the times that and we've already talked about a time, bring to mind a time when you experience your pain dialing up, dialing down, turning up, turning down.
Yeah. Are
And,
these
and
dims and sims, Tim? Are these dims and sims?
they might involve dims and sims, mightn't they? Yeah.
So danger,
Danger
things
in
that,
me, safety in me.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? Yeah. So
And
maybe
that, yeah,
maybe the being abroad in a warm country is a sim. I mean, I
yeah.
think it would be for me. Um, Being late for work, misplacing your car keys and stubbing your toe. Perhaps there's a dim there. Yeah.
Mm,
So absolutely. So those are sort of two, if you want, sort of fairly easy in the moment, reflection and embodied practice. The feeling, the doing. And then from an educational point of view, we've got a few different ways that we might go, but I would say that I'm looking to layer my approach. So I wouldn't jump in and give a story about pain straight away. I want to know the person first of all and work with them and their experiences.
mm,
But there are lots of different ways that we could approach education as well. So an example that I think is helpful to give is using a simile. Have you? I mean, I like something that I use is a felt experience, a sensation, a feeling. So, like hunger. So, bring to time an experience of being hungry. What do you notice in you when you're hungry? And so you could use that as a simile of using something else, a felt experience, and then noticing how they respond and act in that moment. I mean, hunger is often quite unpleasant, can't it be?
mm, mm.
And even now, I don't know whether you feel this, but even me dropping the word hunger and hungry has started to do something in my body.
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't that funny?
yeah,
Just the word in itself. We haven't talked about pain yet, in that scenario, in that story, but you
yeah.
start to notice something in your body. And Dave used to have this lovely story, didn't he? He said I think it was to do with having a hangover and having a headache, and he was going, "Have I got a headache? Maybe I've got." And then as soon as you start thinking, "Have I got a headache?" then you start bringing about this hangover headache.
Yeah.
So bringing to mind felt experiences and sensations might be another one. Pain is a bit like that. Where hunger is telling us something, maybe it's informing us about the need to have some food. Pain might be doing something similar. So with a simile, we've got the ability to be able to sort of embellish that story as well. And what do you think pain might be telling us now?
Yeah.
So I'm not giving an answer. I'm asking. I'm getting a still. It's a sort of an ability to be able to get someone to reflect as well. And there's something interesting about they're called imperative sensations, but hunger and thirst and breathlessness and things like that, feeling sick. I mean, until you see the vomit, they're invisible, aren't they? We don't see them. I can't see, Joe, that you're hungry.
Yeah.
Like I can't see that you're in pain. But there might be some people who display signs of having hunger. Hunger is a common, expression,
Mm,
isn't it? And if you think back to TV adverts, that's something that marketing execs have used, haven't they? I can't remember what it was for, but he's a real beast until he has his so and so in the morning,
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So you could use, although my memory's not good enough to remember what that was for, but you could bring to mind a famous advert as well to just emphasize a point as well.
Yeah. So in
So
all
that,
these things, sorry, I'll let you finish and then I'll come
uh,
back
oh,
to
oh,
it.
oh, I was really just what I was wanting to do is we're trying to validate an experience, and a part of I was saying about the invisibleness, we're just getting hooks here, aren't we? Like
Mm,
little hooks, and I've tried many, many different ones. I would never try this much all in one go, by the way.
yeah, there's a lot.
There's loads, yeah, and there's enough within an experience that we can spend a bit of time there as well,
Mm,
but one of the points from the simile and hunger and the invisibility is that you can sort of you can perhaps draw upon that. Perhaps other people, because they're struggling, they can't see that they are struggling to be able to understand you. How would we go about better communicating how you feel?
mm,
Because actually, getting support from other people is often a really important part of a process of recovery.
okay. And so where are you trying to lead the patient to
I
through
mean,
all these techniques? I mean, there's so many here, and like you say, you wouldn't use them all in one go. Where are you trying to lead that patient to through these examples? Simile, understanding the invisibility of it, your language. Where are you getting them to?
I think I'm trying to empower them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's layers like we've been saying, aren't there? But part of particularly patients that I'm seeing where there's been quite persistent problems over a long period of time, is just in a way making friends with pain and understanding it and being able to, instead of sort of push it away and ignore it, of perhaps sort of listening in and respecting it as well can be an important part of a process. So
Yeah.
some of what we've done through these stories and through these reflections would allow someone to do that. And what we haven't said so much within this session is that there is a very real and important role of the brain in a pain state. And we know
Mm,
loads about that now. It's
yeah.
ever growing. But communicating that to someone, that might require a little bit of, uh, you know, devoted time on it. And I typically, we haven't gone into that. I don't think we've got time, have we, today? I haven't, but typically I would ask permission, and it would be, and I have a few different sort of stories, analogies, etc., that I use. So things like the creepy, creaky house. Do you remember that, Joe?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I might have a number of different stories. So, for instance, I use that if I'm thinking about attention and how attention changes, and whether the attentional bias is part of a story for this person and their pain. So I would have like little analogies that I could bring out. So instead of me going, in pain, what we realize is that there's this dynamic interconnection between the prefrontal cortex and the brainstem, and there's this support in communication between, like, sort of like a super highway developing. And I would like having an analogy and a story might be a nice way of bringing about some biology, if you want to drop in some biology.
We've done sessions on that as well, haven't we? So if you want to take a deeper dive into sort of metaphor and storytelling, there are ones in the library. That wasn't going to be, yeah, you can go and take a deeper dive with that, as you can with the pain biology as well. The sessions on that too. You only get through so much in one day, don't we? Tim, I'm just conscious of the time.
Yep.
Would you want to wrap up and just summarize what you wanted to say today, and then we'll just have a quick chat about the courses that you've got coming up.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, if you're hearing someone saying, "Is it all in my head?" or "I've been told it's all in my head," or I feel like therapists are just using this as a crutch because they can't explain my pain, then listen to that. And notice how it makes you feel, and ask that person how it makes them feel as well. And given what you hear, then we can do our best to start to validate them, and feel like they have some support. They're not being dismissed, and there are ways then beyond that of perhaps making better sense and understanding what it is that you're experiencing. And we used a few different techniques. We talked about how we might reflect. We reflect on our own experiences, and what might dial up or dial down that experience, and where those are in our world. I mean, in a way, that's starting to notice how context and how holistic or biopsychosocial a pain experience might be. And then we had a few examples where we can get someone to be in themselves, so actually do some of their own reflecting and feel some of it as well, or maybe even see some of it, depending on the examples that you've got. So you get a deeper understanding of what it is that you feel and experience, and some of that being the invisibility of it as well. We talked about hunger, because I think pain is one of those experiences where, because people typically can't see what you're going through, it is very difficult for them to understand. And it's, we talked about educating the person in pain, but it can be important for us to educate their support network as well, whether it's their
100%.
family, their friends, their work. So having some techniques and some ways of doing that could include not just the reflection and the visualizations, but maybe the use of similes and analogies and metaphors as well.
Mm. Thanks, Tim. That was really great. And I always feel like when we do a webinar on this topic, there is so much to unpack. And it is basically, you're unpacking a lot of the Explain Pain course, and we can't possibly obviously do that in half an hour, because it normally takes 14 hours over 2 days or 4 sessions. So if we've scratched the surface today on these practical techniques that you can use with patients. But Tim does have, if you haven't done the Explain Pain course and you are interested in doing it, we've got 2 courses coming up with Tim. He's got a face-to-face course in Dublin on the 25th and 26th of January, if you were in Ireland or anywhere near. If not, if you're nowhere near that, then he's got an online global course starting on the 20th of March. On the online course, all the sessions are recorded, so you can join live, you can join on replay, or you can join live and watch us back as many times as you like. But in those courses, Tim goes through all of this, and deep dives, as we've said, into so many different areas as well. Is there anything that you'd like to just add to any of that about the courses, Tim? We've just released the March date, so if you are interested in it, then we've got spaces at the moment, but they do fill.
Come and join us. Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening in. I think the clinical world of pain has radically changed in the last 10 years. And there was a time, let's be honest, when we were saying that pain is in your head, pain is in the
Yeah.
brain. We weren't doing it because we were trying to harm people, but we recognized the harm that can be done by using a message like that. So things have
Yeah.
changed. Things are continuing to change.
Yeah. And Thanks, Tim. Absolutely, we couldn't agree more at Noi Group. That's what we're all about here, is trying to affect change. And if you are interested in the course or you've done it, you'll know that you come away with all this knowledge and all the skills to be able to move that forward, and you won't have that problem. So thank you very much for
Or
listening
you'll be
today.
aware of when it is a problem.
Well, yeah, you will. That's true. That's true. And you get to spend a couple of days with Tim, so which is always really good fun. So thanks, Tim, and thank you everybody for joining live, and thank you if you're watching on replay. We hope you found this useful. Please do go into our YouTube channel and see. We've got so much content in there. There's just so much amazing knowledge available for free, and also our clinical discussion group, where Tim is on hand answering questions, David Bolton is on hand answering questions, loads of clinicians really engaged in that group. So please do come over and join us. We are here to help and support in any way that we can. So thanks again, and hopefully see you next time. Take care, everybody. Lovely to see you.
Bye bye.
Bye.